they're going to be more long term. So you have this mixture of housing types that becomes, historic districts and shows the character of the city, history of the cities. Over time, it just increases its patina. So it's a good thing. So another thing you should think about is that tucking housing types into these different mixed use. So row houses and townhouses and studios and all these types of things, um, they can be tucked into these kind of ground floors that are commercial, nice facades and glass facades, and those types of things that people can look into and shop. But then there's kind of housing opportunities above them as well. So the sixth rule is more about natural space, natural systems. You need to create linked systems, not just individual, isolated, small pocket parks or a community playground here and there. What you want to do is really rethink the drainage patterns in this city and let those drainage patterns link with these natural areas and parks you're setting up. So this is a cool diagram of drainage here on the left, and then these are park spaces here on the right that overlap where those kind of pools of drainage areas go to. So the important thing is you need to understand what's there now, and specifically in your site, there's really not a lot. I think most of the groups have thought about it. But also, how can you improve it? So it's simple enough to map out what's there up here at the top, and then try to connect what's there by making different programmatic elements to link these things. So um, maintain the integrity of what's there and enhance it and connect it and make it better. Anything that's needed, especially on these coastal areas. Think about phasing in or restoring habitat restoration of lost ecological areas. And remember, that's going to take time. So take, you know, craft out flexible urban space for that and allow it to grow over time. As we talked about earlier, if you need a way to connect, think about creating greenways or eco streets, those kind of things, street trees, all these types of things to help connect all these different green spaces, north, south, east, and west, those kind of things. So they can be along your primary axes or secondary axes if you want. And these also provide social spaces, right? So they're helping with the drainage, they're helping with ecological services, they're helping with species richness, but they're also recreational corridors and helping with human public health, right? Social interaction, those kind of things. So be able to not only think these things out, but present them in a way that they're multifunctional. And they're not limited to just parks and large scale giant ecological patches, right? Think about not only the streets, trees, but the smaller scale shrubs and the rights of ways, the rooftops, all the walls, right? They can all be natural systems, smaller scaled, low impact facilities that can assist, right? So you want to calibrate the regional scale to this kind of smaller scale um, because you need to think about exactly how your connections are going to fit within the grand scheme of things. Okay, so is are you going to? You can't just connect internally. You must connect externally as well. So when I say internally, I mean the site, and then externally, I mean to other patches or green spaces outside of the site. And you need to make specific reference of what you're connecting to. So the seventh and last rule is about greener and cheaper infrastructure. So it's more about the smaller scale, kind of low impact facilities that can help create these connections. So if you think about the way we expand, suburban homes have 4 times as much infrastructure as these smaller walkable streetcar neighborhoods. If you remember rule number 1, restore the streetcar neighborhood characteristics. So because you have to expand sewer systems and roadways and sidewalks and power lines, all that kind of stuff have to go out and keep expanding as development expands, right? So if you invest in cheaper, when I say cheaper, I mean greener because it's not as expensive as engineered infrastructure. Um, um, you're going to save money in the long run, especially if you develop nodally, because if you increase in populations, which is what we're doing, that's a necessity for infrastructure increase especially if you're expanding horizontally, right? But if we do nodal development, we won't need as much infrastructure, and we can save money. It's cheaper. That's what I mean by cheaper. So the way we currently urbanize results in significant amounts of more runoff, significant amounts of more pollution. So there's a lot more quantity and quality issues when it comes to stormwater runoff and existing urban water. I mean, riverways are more polluted, bays are more polluted, all this, and we have to take into account how to fix this kind of stuff. And typically, what happens is the way we do it, it runs off from an impervious surface into a sewer system. That sewer system goes directly into some sort of water body, and it's not done with anymore. So we need to think about better ways to fight or remediate runoff and allow the natural processes to fix these before they get into larger water bodies. And that's typically can be done through smaller scale green infrastructure. So the first way you can do it is locate some low points, where's going to be flooded on site, and strategically place retention bonds or detention basins, whatever, to help contain runoff and design them in a way that's, put a park around them that they're beautiful and functional, okay, and aesthetic. Things like pixelating the parking lots and doing ways to break up larger scale pieces of impervious surface can replace what we call total impervious with effective impervious. So that would be things like um, bioswales in the middle of a parking lot or pervious pavement, those kind of things, right? So there are ways of breaking up giant impervious surfaces with um, almost like semi-pervious structures. Okay, so you need to think to do this, right? You got to think small scale. So rooftops and pervious pavements, walkways and rights of ways in fixing parking lots, rooftops, walls, these kind of things. Um, all these things, if you connect them and address them correctly and invest in green infrastructure with them, you can typically reduce runoff by around 35%. Um, if you design them effectively, right? So that's a significant amount of runoff, especially during kind of a 100-year event or larger. Okay, so those are a lot of things to think about, but 7 overall rules for you guys to follow when you're thinking through this stuff. And hopefully it gives you some ideas of how to design sustainably, not just specifically for your problem statement, but in accordance with it. Thanks.